Hey people of planet Earth. As soon as I saw this alien hybrid race mod from 2010, I knew I had to make a challenge run using it, along with a few other mods I'll discuss as they become relevant. I also wanted to come up with an epic backstory, so I got busy for 10 minutes and came up with one. Here it is, I'll keep it short. Out there in the galaxy exists an alien race known as the Zetans. One day, a Zetan was born particularly tall and particularly wicked. His name was James, and he was voiced by Liam Neeson.
Well, that's my job.
Zetans are a cruel species with very little regard for other living things. They regularly experiment on lower life forms for their own benefit. However, the unique kind of experiments James was doing were unacceptable even by Zetan standards. For his crimes against nature, James received the harshest punishment Zetan kind could exact. He was exiled down to the worst planet in the known universe. Earth. You may have heard of it. Earth is the type of planet where you crank up the shields and power on the death ray when you're flying close by, just to be safe. Most Zetans would have been horrified at the prospect of being sent there, but James took it in stride. In fact, it's exactly what he wanted. One of Earth's primitive species known as humans fascinated him. Earth once had everything humans needed to survive and thrive. But rather than live in balanced harmony, humans grew in number exponentially, consuming everything, squandering the surplus they'd been given. Even after their weapons of war scorched the planet's surface, turning a veritable paradise into hell, humans still fought over the last few remaining pockets of resources, dreaming of an impossible return to their past heights. They were a hopeless species, James knew that, but he imagined that perhaps by combining man's consumptive nature with the rigid logic of Zetans, he could create an unstoppable hybrid species capable of conquering the galaxy, with him as its leader. He also liked the rather large breasts of human women, especially with the Type 3 body from NexusMods.com. That was actually the main reason James came down to Earth, because while Zetans know how to party, they're highly sexually monomorphic. You can't tell who's female and who's male, and James was tired of that. He took an exceptional fancy to a certain human woman named Catherine, and they got along surprisingly well. Maybe it was his British accent.
Is that good?
Yes, it's good. Anyways, one thing led to another, and, well, basic biology tells us that two different species can't produce viable offspring, especially if they evolved on separate planets. But that's basic biology. James had studied expert-level biology. By some miracle, or perhaps curse, he was able to impregnate Catherine, creating the first viable human-Zetan hybrid. 9 months later, a baby boy came out, and James named him James Jr. Unfortunately, Catherine died a painful death from complications shortly thereafter. A human woman cannot survive giving birth to a half-Zetan baby. Distraught, and with his reputation in tatters on the surface, James made a deal with the overseer of Vault 101. He and his offspring would be sheltered inside the vault in exchange for his medical knowledge. It was a pretty good deal for James, but a terrible one for James Jr. Okay, pause here. In Fallout 3, every playable race needs to be linked to a child race, so the player can become a child during the vault opening and Tranquility Lane sequences. If your race doesn't have a child race, at those particular points the game will instantly crash. This isn't necessary for New Vegas mods, since at no point during New Vegas' runtime do you transform into a child temporarily, but it's needed for Tale of Two Wastelands. So I had to edit the Alien Hybrid mod to add a child race myself, which took about 3 minutes. I probably should have spent longer than 3 minutes, because this was the result. Look, I did my best, okay? We're all just going to have to imagine that this kid's facial features are attached to his head properly, alright? We're also going to ignore James's beard clipping through his face. Anyways, James Jr. did not have a pleasant childhood. He suffered from relentless bullying. Just on his 10th birthday, his cake was deliberately sabotaged and he was beaten half to death by a gang of other kids. And this kind of stuff happened every single day. His short stature, green skin, and bald head made him an easy target. With curled fists and cruel words, the people of the Vault abused him. They called him every hurtful name under the Vault's artificial sun. They called him the Little Green Mutt. They called him the Verdant Virgin. They called him the Green Bastard from Parts Unknown. In the locker room, they called him the Cockless Monster, the 1-inch Orc, the Xeno Dick. That last one wasn't very good, so they only used it once or twice. Anyhow, his daily torture went on and on. If you kick a dog long enough, eventually it will bite back, but James Jr. never fought back. He kept his rage bottled deep inside. He hated everyone, especially his own father for creating him, but he had restraint. He didn't want to be like an abused little dog that bites its master's ankle, doing no damage and being immediately euthanized. No, he wanted to be like the attack dogs from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and go straight for the throat. And if he timed his attack properly, there's no way his bullies would be able to push the right stick in fast enough to snap his neck, figuratively speaking. So no matter how much they hurt him, he turned the other cheek, knowing one day he would have his vengeance 1,000-fold upon the whole human race. One fateful day in James Jr.'s 19th year, the opportunity arose, aptly because of his father's latest screw-up. You see, James had been probing the wife of his best friend Jonas. Maybe he should have stuck to anal probes because it turned out the baby in her womb wasn't Jonas's. Of course, it wasn't too hard to figure out. You don't need a DNA test to tell you're not the father when your baby ends up green and kills its mother on the way out. Jonas tried to confront James but was bested and murdered. James then ran away from the consequences, escaping Vault 101, leaving it in chaos. Chaos that James Jr. took advantage of. Finally, we get some real gameplay, and I can explain the poorly thought out rules of this challenge run. Basically, the rules are I have to kill every human character I see as soon as possible. If they initiate dialogue, I have to end it ASAP so I can kill them. No need to kill ghouls, robots, or super mutants because James Jr. sympathizes with them, since they are also mankind's misbegotten creations. James Jr.'s first kill was Amada, who tried to run away, but I was able to activate my bullet time mod and shoot her in the head multiple times. It took more than one shot to kill her because this is very hard difficulty and I don't have any mods to make NPC health more realistic. We're doing it RPG style this time around. The second kill was Officer Kendall, a former bully turned security officer. A couple of shots from the prone position took him down. I love this new enhanced movement mod. I remember in the past, leaning and prone mods for New Vegas were always crappy, but this one is basically perfect. Junior stole Kendall's security armor for some extra protection and continued his killing spree. He hadn't gotten enough sleep last night, but the rush of adrenaline from killing fueled him. Next, he encountered Butch, who tried to plead with him to save his mother from being eaten by rad roaches. But Junior remembered the daily beatings he endured at Butch's hands, and he remembered that 1-inch orc insult. That one hurt. So he destroyed Butch's head with a 10mm round, and then watched, laughing as Butch's mom was slowly torn apart by rad roaches. Then he killed Officer Gomez and Stanley the Mechanic too. They never bullied him, but they never did anything to stop it either, making them just as guilty in James Jr.'s eyes. Those pure black eyes. He killed a few more security guards before looking at the Overseer and Officer Mac in an otherwise empty interrogation room. With Amada dead, the scripted sequence where she's interrogated doesn't play out, but otherwise things were as normal and Junior was able to beat the both of them to death. After a little more looting and shooting, James Jr. came across Jonas's corpse, which had a note from his father telling him to meet up with him so they could conquer the galaxy together and how proud he was. Blah, blah. James Jr. ripped that note in half. Fuck you, Dad. On the Overseer's computer, James Jr. read about a town called Megaton, full of human scum. He wondered if that's where his father went. With no time to think about that, though, James Jr. left through the Overseer's secret tunnel to the vault exit. Because Amada was dead, no security guards arrived to force him out the door, but the door still closed as expected shortly after he exited. That was the last he'd see of Vault 101. He waved goodbye to the vault and hello to the Wasteland. The only thought on his mind as the blinding light faded was, wow, what an ugly shithole. I got my first level up at this point. For this playthrough, I rebalanced skill distribution so you only get 10 skill points per level maximum, even with 10 intelligence, so I really had to specialize. I put some points in survival and medicine because I wouldn't have access to traders for a long while. I guess I skipped over James Jr.'s special stats earlier. I put 7 in strength because he did a lot of push-ups to relieve stress as a kid. 6 in perception because those big Zayton eyes are good at seeing, I don't know. 10 in endurance because he grew thick skin enduring all that bullying. 1 in charisma because, obviously. 7 intelligence, he was smarter than the average cookie. 8 agility, and 1 luck, because him existing in the first place was very unlucky. For traits, I chose small frame, obviously, and twisted from Sweet 6 perks pack, because my karma was going to be very evil, might as well get some benefit from that. For my first perk, I chose Nowhere to Hide from Suite 6 perks because I knew a lot of enemies would be fleeing from me, but I'm not sure if the perk was actually functional. I never felt like I was doing extra damage to fleeing targets. Oh well, at this point most characters would be jogging their way into Megaton, but the self-imposed rules of my challenge meant I would have to kill everyone there. Shooting up a vault was one thing, shooting up a whole town would be much harder. So James Jr. decided to go to a school and look around instead. Because this is Fallout 3, all he found was some generic raiders, and damn they were tough, eating 10mm bullets for breakfast. I was lucky to find some metal armor on the first guy I killed, but I was still pretty fragile. Sadly, I didn't find any energy weapons in the school. Early game Fallout 3 is not kind to energy weapon users. I did find some pistols from the classic Fallout Weapons Remastered mod, but they weren't very good. I preferred the regular 10mm. I got another level up and spread my points thin, putting 1 point in explosives because I knew I would need 25 later on to blow up a Megaton. For my level 3 perk, and yes, I used a perk every level mod because not getting a perk every level sucks ass, and it's not like the game is easy anyways. I picked Alertness, which under any other circumstance would be a complete waste of a perk, but I have a mod that makes Perception affect weapon accuracy, making it a useful stat to pump up. Going through Springvale School felt extremely weird, as if all the furniture was too big, and that's because I set James Jr.'s scale to 0.85 to put him somewhere in between the height of a normal Zayton and human. It's a shame he didn't inherit his father's height, maybe then he wouldn't have turned out the way he did. Anyhow, after leaving the school, I looked for an easy target to pick off, and ran into a rad scorpion with a frankly ridiculous amount of health. I couldn't even imagine how bad albino rad scorpions would be, and determined to finish Fallout 3 before getting too far past level 20. After all, this video is called Can I Beat Fallout New Vegas as an alien hybrid? I shouldn't be spending 2/3 of my time in Fallout 3. The easiest target I could find was Big Town, but killing everyone there lost me some ammo and gained me pretty much nothing. Those losers were hardly worth killing. My next assault was on the Super Duper Mart, which ended up being a serious ordeal. Half a dozen raiders were waiting outside, and I couldn't kill them fast enough, especially not without my Pip-Boy. See, because there's unfortunately no real-time Pip-Boy mod for New Vegas like there is for Fallout 4, I enabled a tweak from Stewie Tweaks to disable the Pip-Boy in combat, and used the Quick Select mod to switch weapons and apply aid items instead. Getting the hang of this menu was tough. I died several times just trying to get into the Super Duper Mart, but on one run I got lucky, and the raiders up front were fighting some Wastelanders over a fridge, and an Enclave iBot got involved, and this thinned out the raiders enough for me to be able to kill the rest of them and get inside. For some reason a sentry bot showed up, so I had to avoid aggroing it on my way in. Here I found my first energy weapons, but of course they were in terrible condition and I lacked ammo. Every enemy was spongy as hell due to the difficulty setting, and I was running the Famine mod to make ammunition more rare, which is a nasty combination. For my level 4 perk, I chose Duck and Cover because less damage from explosions is obviously a good thing for any character. The raiders drained all my energy weapon ammo, so I had to switch back to guns to deal with the reinforcements that spawn once you reach the back of the Super Duper Mart. Once they were dead, I left and explored some more boring buildings, finding nothing interesting but at least gaining a bit of experience. I hit the jackpot when I killed Grandma Sparkle at Wilhelm's Wharf, since her fridge was full of food and healing supplies. I also found a scavenger with tons of supplies, but killing her was a bit tougher, and unluckily for me, some raiders wearing metal armor decided to show up while I was over-encumbered from looting her. I had to duck behind a dumpster and spam drugs to try to kill these ridiculous bullet sponge bastards. I came out of the fight almost dead and addicted to Psycho, but hey, at least I came out of the fight. Just look at the number of bullets they put into the dumpster I was hiding behind. James Jr. realized simply surviving in this world would take all he had, but he was determined to kill as many humans as hybridly possible. He came across a kid named Brian Wilkes and zapped him out of existence using the console, the easiest way to get rid of children in Bethesda games without offending the powers that be. Next, I arrived at a Talon Company camp where I finally got a decent amount of energy weapon ammo and made it to level 5. Walker Instinct was the perk I chose to get some more perception when crouched indoors. The Talon Company cocksuckers were so spongy they quickly drained my energy and microfusion cells away, especially since I was using Watts laser weapons that expend 2 cells per shot. Fighting through them was hard, and I had my limbs crippled, but thankfully the Sweet Healing Systems mod lets you randomly regenerate limbs when sleeping, so all I had to do to fix my limbs was rest for a while, no doctor's bag needed. Unfortunately, sleeping for a long time makes you hungry and thirsty, and all the food and water I had was heavily irradiated, so I traded one debilitating debuff for another. Further along in the Talon Company camp, I ran into a Deathclaw Alpha, and the fight lasted about as long as you'd expect, so I cut my losses, loaded an earlier save, and got out of there. I then traveled to A World of Pain location called Cooper's Hotel, where I got my head crippled and lost most of my ammo. I tried to sleep off the crippling again, but this time I wasn't so lucky. I couldn't get the limb to heal. Now I was stuck on advanced radiation poisoning and had a crippled head messing up my aim and driving me crazy with annoying blur and sound effects. Things were not looking good for poor James Jr. Nevertheless, he kept going and made it to level 6, where I took the Lead Belly perk. Normally, Lead Belly is terrible, but the increased radioactivity of food and water in the Sweet Consumables mod makes it a worthwhile perk. After I took it, radiation was never a threat to me again, so I'd say it worked wonders. Still crippled, I exited the hotel and found another scavenger to kill, but right after killing her and her stupid little dogs, I was attacked from 2 sides by feral ghouls and raiders alike, and Talon Company showed up to play after that. I had to rely on a sniper rifle with quite possibly the worst scope ever designed for my survival, as I was pelted with bullets. I ran out of ammo and had to kill the last merc with a .44 Magnum. It was crazy, but I made it through. With that done, I killed some more shitty-ass raiders in Fairfax Ruins and walked into an A World of Pain added house with a raider boss in it. I noticed a very terrible bug. The game was running at an accelerated speed. Apparently this is a bug with just bullet time improved. Whenever your perception stat increases or decreases during bullet time, which was happening to me because of the alertness perk, time accelerates or decelerates even outside of bullet time. So I had to remove JBT improved, which meant most VATS-based perks were useless. I hadn't taken any, thankfully. I also realized at some point my height had been set back to 1, possibly by Titans of the New West, which I think relies on your scale being 1 so it can rescale you in power armor. And rather than fix it, I decided to just leave it at 1, so from this point forward, James Jr.'s short stature was lore only, and sadly not represented in game. Those minor annoyances were compounded by getting my leg crippled by a goddamn mine. I could add that to my list of ailments now totaling a broken leg, head, and addiction to Psycho. However, I soon discovered that with the Sweet Healing Systems mod, MedX allows you to ignore the effect of crippled limbs, and that really helped me out, at least until I ran out of MedX. I also became addicted to it, which sucked. So actually, it didn't help me out at all. I reached level 7 and took the Strong Back perk for more carry weight, although the way I play these games, no amount of carry weight is ever enough because I'm always at 95% of the limit. At this point, I stupidly figured it was time to try and get to Galaxy News Radio. I have no clue what I was thinking then, but that's what I attempted. I got held up by a pair of super mutants you can barely see in this footage thanks to video compression completely destroying the picture, but suffice it to say I was glad their idiotic AI was unable to detect me because they were the most insane bullet sponges I've ever seen. It took well over 132 caliber rounds and some help from raiders to take them out. And while fighting those momentarily helpful raiders, I crippled one of my arms and nearly died. Now, think about the situation I was in. I was crippled as hell and just wasted half my ammo on only 2 super mutants. What's the next logical course of action here? Try and fight dozens of super mutants on the way to Galaxy News Radio, obviously. And the Brotherhood of Steel, too. My thinking was that somehow the Brotherhood and super mutants would kill each other, since the Brotherhood soldiers are no longer essential thanks to an any tweak I made. But that line of thinking was very flawed. Inside Farragut Metro Station, I experienced firsthand how horrible aiming was with a crippled arm. Keep in mind, at this point I had no MedX left to stabilize my limbs, so this is just how aiming was going to be, and yet I still kept moving forwards. When I made it to Chevy Chase, I realized I was the victim of yet another strange bug, this one beneficial. When holding a lead pipe holstered, I could move at a normal speed when my legs were crippled. This bug was caused by the Butcher Pete melee animations pack. It might be the result of a mod conflict, but I wasn't having it, so I removed Butcher Pete and used vanilla melee animations for the rest of the run. Honestly, I might have had a better time if I didn't use any first-person animation replacers at all, because most of them don't preserve vanilla timings, so you reload slower in first-person versus third-person, and that causes issues when the perspective changes. But that wasn't such a big deal, I felt it necessary to remove them. Anyways, I dragged my crippled butt into combat with Sentinel Lions' squad and a group of super mutants. The muties were promptly eliminated, but I managed to kill Initiate Redden before the squad started opening fire on me. I tried to kill the power armor-clad paladins with a pulse mine, but they walked around it, and my attempts to blow them up with a car explosion were thwarted by Fallout 3's terrible collision meshes, my eternal nemesis. I used up most of my ammo trying to kill those tin cans, but all my bullets either went askew thanks to Junior's crippled arm, or bounced right off their power armor. I did have some success using flame-based weapons. A Nuka cocktail managed to flay Knight Captain Colvin, but after those were exhausted, I was basically dry on ammo facing 2 relentless power-armored enemies. I got a good headshot on Lions. Thankfully she wasn't wearing her helmet, before switching to a .32 rifle, the only weapon I had ammo for. I missed multiple times, but I planted one final shot right in her forehead, putting her down. Now there was just one left, but I couldn't get a shot on him. I danced around him for 3 whole minutes, healing and desperately trying to land one hit, until by chance I managed to hit him square in the head with a hipfire shot. Good night, you son of a bitch. Once I looted all their corpses, for some insane reason I thought it was a good idea to keep going. I did have a lot more ammo from their bodies, but damn, this was stupid. Super mutants were dying a lot faster when hit with high-condition energy weapons I was skilled in using, but brutes were still absolute tanks. Even armor-piercing 308 could hardly make them flinch. Through perseverance, I eventually made it to the Galaxy News Radio Plaza, and I wondered what was going to happen with Sentinel Lions and her squad dead. How would the quest scripting react? Well, amazingly, it proceeded as normal. The behemoth spawned in. I let the Brotherhood soldiers do most of the work killing it, although I did put in some shots with a fat man. Once it was dead, the GNR building was open for business. James Jr. wasted no time dealing with the Brotherhood idiots inside, hitting them with an indoor mini-nuke. He then decapitated 3Dog, cutting off the main quest for now, but whatever. What's most important is I found a damn doctor's bag. My limbs were finally healed. James Jr. recuperated in the GNR building before setting out again to explore the DC wastes for his piece of crap father. One of the Brotherhood paladins outside GNR had an awesome pulse rifle which proved itself invaluable for James in the future, starting very soon. He stumbled across an AWOP dungeon called the Nuka-Cola Regional HQ and decided to take a look inside. The dungeon turned out to be full of robots and turrets, so the new pulse rifle came in handy. It was capable of destroying any robot in just 1 or 2 hits, and that was in a nearly broken state. If this was supposed to be a difficult dungeon, the pulse rifle completely trivialized it. As far as loot goes, there wasn't much to find, but when I tried to leave, I discovered the exit door was locked with an easy lock, which I couldn't pick since I didn't have the lockpicking skill. I searched for about 20 minutes trying to find a key or some alternative exit, but if it exists, I couldn't find it. In the end, I cheated to get Junior's green ass out of there. We're over 20 minutes into this boring video and I haven't even gotten to Megaton yet, so I figured it was time to attack the place. Deputy Weld wasn't much of a threat with a pulse rifle in hand, and the sniper guarding the town was easily dispatched with a laser gun. It turned out the real threat in Megaton was the game itself, since after shooting Lucas Sims and a nameless settler, they stretched out into horrifying monstrosities and the game crashed shortly thereafter. The second time around, things fared much better. I should have attacked Megaton earlier because clearing the town was way easier than dealing with Galaxy News Radio. These people were absolute pushovers. I made it to level 8 and picked the Violent Vendetta perk, which conferred a 25% damage boost against super mutants, which was absolutely essential. I cleared out the town all the way to Moriarty's saloon, where I expected to find Mr. Burke, but for whatever reason he wasn't sitting in his chair. I planned on temporarily breaking the rules of my challenge by talking to Burke and agreeing to blow up Megaton for him. Of course I would kill him later, but I had to let him get to Tenpenny Tower to set up the detonator first. I killed everyone in the saloon and strangely found Burke outside near Craterside Supply, gesturing me over as if he was sitting in a chair. I admired his miming skills and told him I would go along with his evil plan to nuke the shit out of Megaton. Unfortunately, my explosive skill wasn't high enough to arm the bomb because of my addictions, so I had to take some Psycho and Mentats to rig the damn thing. I purposely avoided going into Craterside Supply because I wanted to do the Wasteland Survival Guide questline later by turning Moira into a ghoul, but I made sure to clear out every other part of Megaton before moving on to Tenpenny Tower. I'll be honest, I had more trouble fighting rad scorpions on the way to Tenpenny Tower than I did dealing with Tenpenny security. After killing Chief Gustavo and the guards at the front gate, I made it to level 9, and this time I grabbed the Toughness perk because 10 extra damage threshold is really good. The Tenpenny armament locker was full of good weapons, including a laser RCW, which Junior put to good use slaughtering the hapless morons populating Tenpenny Tower. Some were so weak they weren't worth wasting ammo on. Junior was amazed by the amount of food and water stockpiled in the place. He'd never go hungry again, not that he had in the past. Getting over encumbered from picking up all the food and drink items everywhere was more of a problem than dying from thirst or starvation, even with the famine mod increasing loot rarity. Mr. Burke and Tenpenny himself were hostile and waiting for Junior on the balcony, but they'd still prepared the briefcase to nuke Megaton. James Jr. ensured neither of them would get to see the beauty of a nuclear explosion wiping out a monument to man's stupidity. Junior felt incredible after wiping 2 human settlements off the map. Nothing gave him a greater rush than killing a whole bunch of innocent people. Unfortunately, with Burke dead, the Tenpenny suite was locked, so I forcibly unlocked it with the console to give myself a player home. The robot butler refused to talk to me, and I couldn't buy any suite upgrades, but it was home. The bed in the suite wouldn't let me sleep save with the Saving Reworked mod, which I've been using this whole time but never had a reason to complain about before. I complained about this in my mod battle too, but I don't think the mod's ever going to get an update. I knew just what to do about this problem though. I spawned in another bed on top of the real bed. It was sideways and floating off the ground, but whatever. It let me save, so function over form. That's the Zayton way. I stowed some loot away in the room's safe and headed to Warrington Train Yard to get the ghouls into Tenpenny Tower so I could have some friendly faces there. Along the way, I realized I was also addicted to Jet, so make that 3 addictions tying me down. With the Sweet Healing Systems mod, addictions are supposed to clear themselves after 3 days, but it had been way longer than 3 days, and yet I was still addicted. Doctors can't instantly cure addictions anymore either, so even if I had access to one, which I didn't, it wouldn't have solved the problem. Whatever, it's just special points, I can survive without them. Junior met with Roy Phillips and agreed with his unnecessary plan to fill the tower with feral ghouls, despite most everyone there already being dead. Junior bonded with Phillips over their shared hatred for humans. He'd finally found someone in the Wasteland he clicked with. Once Junior let the ferals in, Roy gave him a ghoul mask that I never bothered wearing, and I reached level 10. I took the extracurricular knowledge perk, which let me bank another perk, but I was forced to take more traits. I took Hoarder and Terrifying Presence, both very beneficial. For my extra perk, I took Maze Runner because an indoor speed and agility boost was very useful. There weren't many residents left for the ferals to kill, so I was just watching them run around. I couldn't get into my suite, which annoyed me, but I figured it was a temporary issue, so I left Tenpenny Tower for now. At the exit, Junior was accosted by this dumb fuck Victoria Watts, who thought he was investigating the Replicated Man quest because I accidentally picked up a holotape back in Megaton. Bitch, I couldn't care less about your precious synths. Now die. James traveled to Megaton's ruins and surveyed the damage, proud of his handiwork. From there, he traveled on foot to Project Purity, a trip I'll cut out of the video for the sake of time. I don't know why I bothered killing the super mutants there. I didn't end up doing Fallout 3's main quest, and Project Purity doesn't fit into the insane backstory I gave James. I was pretty much wasting my time going there. Even with a 25% damage boost versus mutants, they were still tough as nails. I should have saved my ammo for more important targets, like humans. I bypassed Rivet City thinking it would be too hard to attack, and headed towards the Washington Mall instead. It was time to reach Underworld. No sooner than James stepped out of the metro gate, he was bombarded by bullets from a dozen super mutants. Super mutants have no concern for friendly fire apparently, since they fired a missile straight at a fellow mutie just to cripple all my limbs again. I took some Hydra and tried to fight them off, but I just didn't have enough energy ammo. Good thing I had a sniper rifle and some 308. The mutants pushed me back into another group of mutants, and Talon Company fighting in front of the Capitol building. It was a total clusterfuck. I had to dance around a pillar to try to whittle down all the enemies. It's good they hated each other as much as me. I got some NVGs off a Talon Company Merc, which were useless since it never gets dark enough to not be able to see in this game, and hit level 11. I was slowly getting my energy weapon skill up there, and I took the Entomologist perk to have a better chance against rad scorpions. Before too long, I made it into the Museum of History, past the flickering terminals put there to remind us why we switched to flat screens, and past the Mammoth exhibit was a hidden town solely populated by ghouls. Finally, I had traders to repair my stuff and buy ammo from. I went to the 9th Circle Bar to recruit Charon, one of the few non-human primary companions in these games. Recruiting him was as simple as taking over his contract by murdering the competition of his slave owner. Basic stuff. James Jr. bashed her head in with a lead pipe without a moment's thought and took over Sharon's contract. Sharon then killed his former employer and started following Jr. I finally had a companion and things were looking up. On the addiction front, the situation was still bad. I tried to get a doctor to help, but doctors just inject you with a boatload of fixer now, and the fixer sound effect is more annoying than withdrawal symptoms. Unlike vanilla where fixer is a permanent cure, it's merely temporary with my mods. I started the Wasteland Survival Guide questline 2 and was able to skip the Super Duper Mart looting quest right away. That earned me a food sanitizer which made the already negligible radiation from food and drink nearly unnoticeable. My next quest was to head to Minefield and pick up some landmines, so I fast-traveled to Big Town with Sharon and headed northeast. We fought some raiders along the way, and Sharon proved himself a serviceable companion. I practiced some new reloading techniques and slowly trudged my way to Minefield when the damn game proved itself to be my greatest opponent once again by crashing after I headshot somebody. This time the crash logger pointed to the headshot splatter mod, so I removed it and all seemed well. It's a shame, those headshot decals looked cool, but not cool enough to put up with crashes. Retreading the path I'd taken before the crash, a giant rad scorpion attacked me, and even with Entomologist, it took a serious beating. Minefield itself was easy. Arkansas went down with one shot, and I was able to take more than a few landmines. Because of the famine mod, some of them broke when I disarmed them, but I still managed to grab plenty. Moira next tasked me with becoming heavily irradiated. That was as easy as taking a swim in a radioactive river for a few minutes. My next task was to test out mole rat repellent, which also went swimmingly. On the path to tepid sewers, I was attacked by some regulators, and I dressed up Sharon in their attire. And I gave him tons of shit to carry. Inside the sewers, I made sure to sprint ahead of Sharon to hit the mole rats before he killed them. As long as you hit the rats once, it doesn't matter if they die before the repellent gets them, the quest still updates. I also made it to level 12 here, about goddamn time, and I took the Red Sun perk for more damage with laser weapons outside. I hardly noticed the boost, but any increase in damage is good when you're up against Fallout 3's bullet sponges. I killed 10 mole rats and beat the quest in record time. I remember being pissed at this quest back when I played Fallout 3 on PS3 because the raiders kept killing the mole rats before I was able to hit them, but nowadays with the sprint mod, it's easy as pie. I returned and gave Moira the good news that her repellent works wonders, and she tasked me with studying Mirelurks. I left Sharon at Tenpenny Tower because this quest would require stealth, and companions in stealth are like a turd in a punch bowl, you know, the turd ruins the punch. But I finished the quest in less than a minute and definitely didn't get spotted by the Mirelurks. Moira gave me a shitty hat as a reward, and we were on to Chapter 3 of the Survival Guide already. My next task was to get horribly wounded and crippled. I could have waited 10 minutes for it to happen naturally, but I was in a hurry, so I went to Fairfax Ruins and blew myself up with a grenade trap. Easy. The next mission was to learn the history of Rivet City, and James saw it as a perfect opportunity to bring that storied history to a brutal conclusion. So I fast-traveled to the metro near the city and was attacked by a trio of dastardly regulators. Their trail carbines hit hard, but by sheer luck, I managed to scrape out a victory. Doc Hoff was waiting outside Rivet City, but I took him out before he could heal himself and headed up the ramp to the aircraft carrier. The fools would soon regret extending their bridge to meet James Jr. because he was firing at them the moment the bridge started moving. From a stable prone position, he was able to take out the guards outside the city before moving into the marketplace. It was nighttime, so nobody was there, and all their goods were ripe for the taking. If you thought Megaton and Tenpenny Tower were too easy, slaughtering Rivet City didn't make James break a sweat.
What do you think you're doing?
He effortlessly made it to level 13, taking the Balanced Load perk. This perk gives a 10% boost to carry weight, and the boost stacks with other increases, making it very powerful. Eventually, Junior made it to the Rivet City Science Lab, killing everyone there and dumping a mag and a half of 5.56 into Madison Lee. She took it without flinching like she still had the Essential flag. Not this time, Lee. We're not playing by Bethesda's rules anymore. Again, the greatest challenge of assaulting Rivet City was avoiding being over-encumbered because there was so much food, so much ammo, so many weapons to loot, and I just couldn't help myself. Flak and Shrapnel had so much loot in their trunk, and I wanted it all. Good thing there was a drop box leading to Tenpenny Tower right outside Rivet City. Speaking of Tenpenny Tower, I traveled back there and found it still full of feral ghouls. I had to wait a few more days, I suppose. My addictions were all still there too. I was starting to wonder if I was being affected by some bug preventing time from passing normally, but I never really found out whether that was the case. Anyways, during all that killing, James Jr. sort of forgot about his mission to learn the history of Rivet City, so he had to travel back and go through a short little dungeon to get the truth out of Mr. Pinkerton, who he then promptly killed. Moira's next task was to retrieve the contents of Arlington Library, which somehow fits onto a Pip-Boy's hard drive. Before going there, I returned to Tenpenny Tower to find the Pharaohs finally removed from the place, allowing me to access my suite again. It was nice to have some extra vendors around too. Because I couldn't buy suite upgrades, I decided to simply cheat in a workbench and reloading bench for ease of access. They sure didn't look good, but they worked, and that's all that mattered. Then I edited the INI for the Sweet Healing Systems mod to make doctors work like they used to, but after returning to the doctor in Underworld, he still gave me a dose of Fixer and didn't remove my addictions. I felt like I'd never be rid of them. James Jr. cursed humanity for making these addictive substances. With no way to remedy his withdrawal symptoms, he hid the pain by partaking in his favorite activity, killing humans, this time at Arlington Library. Normally during this quest you help the Brotherhood kill raiders, but now I had to kill both groups. It wasn't as tough as my earlier fight with the Brotherhood because this time around I had a companion, tons of ammo, and no crippled limbs. Before I knew it, everyone was dead and I had the library's contents copied to the old Pip-Boy. Moira's final task was to hook up some robots at the Robco facility. I don't even think this part is worth talking about. You know how much of a threat robots are once you've got a pulse rifle. Outside the facility, I killed Sergeant RL3. Unfortunate, since I would have liked to recruit him, but I couldn't do that without talking to his master. That kill got me to level 14, where I took the Fight the Power perk because I would be killing a lot of NCR soldiers and legionaries when I got to the Mojave. Anyhow, I put the thing in the thing and reprogrammed the robots, returned to Moira, and finished her shitty quest. Hallelujah. Now it was time for some fun. I knew I wouldn't have time to do all of Fallout 3's DLCs, but I wanted to do Point Lookout, and I'm playing as a fucking alien, so I had to do Mothershit Zeta. I decided to get the better DLC out of the way first, and headed for the Duchess Gambit. A woman with the same name as James Jr.'s mother started whining to him about her missing daughter, so he started beating her with a lead pipe, and Sharon blasted her into the Potomac with his combat shotgun. I avoided killing Tobar because I suspected he'd be needed for the quest scripts to function properly, and spoiler alert, you get to kill him in the end anyways, so whatever. I was hoping during the trip to Point Lookout my many addictions would clear up, but that turned out to be false hope. Even the fixer the doctor gave to me hadn't worn off yet. God damn it. James Jr. was so mad, he did what he would have done anyways, and killed Madame Panetta and robbed her store. Then he wasted no time and headed straight for the burning mansion, killing some inbred hillbillies along the way. When he arrived at the mansion, he realized it was under attack from a tribe of savages. Junior helped the ghoul owner of the mansion fight them off. Double-barrel shotguns hit like a truck, at least when NPCs are using them. My own shots, of course, did very little harm to these tribal scum. I had built up a surplus of stim packs, and they rapidly disappeared over the course of the raid. I used up all the mines I had gained from the Wasteland Survival Guide quest as well. When it was all over, I had reached level 15, where I took Rapid Reload, a great quality of life addition to my perk list. The owner of the mansion, Desmond, told me to infiltrate the tribe, and that sounded like killing more humans to Junior, which he was always up to do, so he happily agreed. Alas, after reaching the tribal hideout, Junior realized they'd developed an incredible strategy to keep intruders out called locking their doors, and that had him stumped. He'd have to complete their stupid sacred ritual to get in and kill them. At least the ritual quest gave him the opportunity to kill his way across Point Lookout. Inbred, mutated hillbilly cannibals were still human, if only just barely. At some point my fixer wore off, and I still had all my addictions, including Buffout. I don't even remember getting addicted to that. James Jr. decided it was time to get clean from his addictions the old-fashioned way. No doctors, no fixer, just lock himself in a cabin, lie in bed, and let the poison wear off naturally. I edited the INI so addictions were supposed to wear off after one day, but it took several days in the end to get rid of them. At least Junior could proceed to the ritual site pure and clean of mind. I fought past some swamp lurks, aka lazily reskinned mire lurks, and made it to the punga fruit at the center of the site. Surprise, surprise, the punga was a trap, and poor James Jr. was knocked out and sent into a dream. In the meantime, his green body was violated by that creep Tobar. He woke up with a big scar on his head and a splitting headache. His vision was shaky and blurry, but one thing was clear. The tribe was going to pay dearly for this. Junior walked into their cathedral and talked to Nadine, breaking his kill all humans rule, but it was out of necessity. After speaking with Nadine and updating the quest stages, he began slaughtering everyone, except her of course. That gave him the XP he needed to reach level 16, where he put all his points into energy weapons and science, and took the Marathon Runner perk for extra movement speed. Then he went back to Desmond only to be berated for simply doing what the quest marker told him to do. Desmond's such a dick. Anyways, you know how this goes. Junior killed the tribe's leader and spoke to Calvert's brain hologram. After being yelled at by him too, Junior returned to Desmond, who magically instantly knew that Calvert was behind everything and expounded on the pre-war influence of the Calvert family. Yeah, so influential they were never mentioned in a Fallout game again. The writing here is mediocre even by Fallout 3 standards, but at least Point Lookout gives us a new world space to explore, unlike Mothersh Zeta and Operation Anchorage. Now I had the choice between helping Desmond or the brain in a jar, and obviously I picked Desmond, installing a cognitive wave jammer on a Ferris wheel to screw over the brain. But he screwed me over too by sending waves of tribals after me. It was nothing I couldn't handle, and soon I was heading back to the mansion when, oh no, it exploded. I remember playing Requiem for the Capital Wasteland over a decade ago, and this explosion would lag the shit out of my computer. In fact, this whole DLC was laggy as hell. Now I can finally enjoy it at 160 FPS, thanks to the modding community, and thanks to AMD. Desmond survived the explosion and somehow instantly magically knew that Calvert was hiding in a lighthouse right next to him. It was time to finish the centuries-long blood feud between these two idiots. Calvert's robots and turrets were obviously no threat to me, and I annihilated him with a laser RCW in 5 seconds flat. He was pathetic. A single squad of tribals was tougher than him and his robot army put together. I made it to level 17 and picked Tag, which normally is a terrible perk, but with how few skill points I was getting, trading a perk for 15 more wasn't a bad idea. I put the extra points in medicine since that skill was very low, and I wanted to get more bang for my buck out of stim packs. Desmond gave me a big reward of nothing for killing Calvert, and I left the lighthouse with some extra ammo and a microwave emitter I never used. I got back to Nadine, and she removed the scar on Junior's head so he could wear helmets again. I then did some more free-form exploration. I went to the north of Point Lookout and found a concentration camp for Chinese Americans full of feral ghouls. The Reavers there hit really hard with their radiation bombs, and I died multiple times. I don't know why I didn't put on the ghoul mask. I guess I'm just really stupid. I had to use overcharged microfusion cells and Psycho to make a dent in the health bars of Reavers, which brought my Psycho addiction back, but I was done caring. For level 18, I took the Laser Commander perk because 15% more damage with laser weapons is literally the best thing ever. When I returned to the Duchess Gambit, Nadine was there to greet me instead of Tobar because she'd locked him in a storage room for being a freak. Thanks, Nadine, but you're no longer needed. I rocked her skull with a shotgun blast before going into the storage room and doing the same to Tobar. Goodbye, Point Lookout. Back in the capital, I did some inventory management and got my man Sharon back. I figured it was time to do Mothersh Zeta, a horrible DLC, but I'll try to make it enjoyable and fit it into the story somehow. First I had to get there, so Junior decided it was time to try and find his father, so he headed out into the Wasteland, but he was kind of heading in the wrong direction. After some close encounters with rad scorpions, raiders, and a deathclaw, he stumbled across a place called Paradise Falls, occupied by slavers, and decided to slaughter the whole lot of them. He had nothing against slavery, he practiced it himself in fact, but all humans needed to die, regardless of their profession. While killing the slavers, I made it to level 19 and picked the Automatic Artistry perk, which made automatic weapons slightly better, but they still sucked compared to semi-autos. Taking out those slavers bumped Junior's karma up from very evil to evil. Unacceptable. It would take a lot of work to drop that number again. Coincidentally, while searching for his father, Junior found a crashed alien spaceship, but as he approached it, it began to beam him up. It was all a trap, set by his father's followers. Yes, James wasn't the only Zayton interested in creating human Zayton hybrids. He had fans, and they'd purchased their own spaceship, arriving to rescue him from exile. They also wanted to bring along James Jr., but Junior wasn't having any of that. He started beating the crap out of the human cellmate they housed him with, and when they arrived to break up the fight, he beat the shit out of their diminutive little green asses too. He grabbed the shock baton, started swinging, and didn't stop until everyone around was dead. These Zayton bastards were going to pay for abducting him and forcing him into an awful linear corridor shooter, and Bethesda had the nerve to release this for $20. Junior came across a kid named Sally and had no choice but to follow her lead, at least for now. She led him to his confiscated equipment, giving him the ability to rain down hell on his would-be captors. With laser pistols and plasma grenades, he disintegrated and gooified the little bastards before trying out their weaponry and finding it very effective. Sadly, it was equally effective against him. A critical hit from a disintegrator could bring him to near death. Full of rage, James Jr. slaughtered even the unarmed alien workers he came across. No Zayton was innocent, just like no human was innocent. They all had to be punished for the crime of creating him, and the only fitting punishment in Junior's mind was death. Sally wanted him to wake up all the human captives the Zaytons were experimenting on and ask them for help, but he had other ideas. But before he could carry them out, I hit level 20, a huge milestone. I picked the Tough as Nails perk, since who doesn't want 40 extra health? Then Junior woke up the human captives, and while they struggled to get out of their cryopods, he murdered them all one by one. The DLC doesn't really plan on you doing this, but interestingly, it allows you to do it. I'd say the only good things about Mothershit Zeta are it's mercifully short, and you can at least kill everyone in it, except for Sally, of course. To get through this DLC, you first need to blow up 3 generators in 3 different areas of the ship, and you're supposed to take 1 companion to each area. Well, I'd already screwed that up. I went to the hangar area first, and it didn't take long, only 10 minutes, most of it being an easy tower defense section where you push buttons and the Zaytons die long before they get a chance to attack you. The second area was the cryo lab, and this place really ticked Junior off. He was disgusted seeing Zaytons experiment on humans, no doubt trying to make more hybrids like himself. He took special care to make sure everything in that place died before he destroyed the generator there. The final generator was in the robot assembly section of the ship, and was probably the easiest of them all. It only took 5 minutes to get in and blow it up. Then it was back to Sally, who explained to Junior that he needed to go on a spacewalk outside the ship using a spacesuit from a dead astronaut. I've always found it stupid the astronaut suit doesn't replace your Pip-Boy glove, so the thumb and fingers on your left hand are totally exposed to the vacuum of space. I imagine this would be a problem, you'd probably lose your whole hand, but whatever. Junior did the spacewalk and got yelled at by the rogue Zayton captain, who urged him to reconsider and join them. It's your destiny to help us conquer the galaxy, blah blah, shut the fuck up. James Jr. knew his real destiny was to kill as many humans and Zaytons as possible, showing no mercy. With that in mind, he jogged down to the ship's death ray control section, intent on glassing the entire Earth's surface, like the Covenant did to Reach in Halo Reach. I also made it to level 21, now very close to maxing out the energy weapons skill. For perk number 21, I chose Finesse because it's a god tier perk, nothing more needs to be said. On his way to the Death Ray, Junior was further enraged by encountering abominations, human Zayton hybrids like himself, but a lot more messed up, running loose aboard the ship. He made sure to put them out of their misery. When he made it to the Death Ray control panel, he was only able to get off 1 shot before the rogue Zaytons shut down the ray, but at least he killed everyone in, I'm gonna let you headcanon it. Think of the place you hate the absolute most, that's where the Death Ray impacted. Thank me later. Anyhow, with the Death Ray disabled, there was nothing left to do but get to the bridge and try to re-enable it. This involved a lot of running around, getting lost, getting killed by a disintegrator, screaming about how bad this DLC is, and finally reaching the bridge. As he was looking around for a way to turn the Death Ray back on, another mothership showed up. This mothership was crewed by more mainstream Zaytons, and they were convinced James Jr. was working together with his father to try to escape Earth. There was no time to disabuse them of this notion before they began opening fire. Thankfully, Sally showed up and was able to jury-rig the Death Ray into working again. Junior had to both defend the bridge from rogue Zaytons attempting to retake it and monitor the power allocation to the shields and Death Ray to destroy the attacking mothership. This task is usually a lot easier because you're supposed to have other companions helping, but Junior killed them all. Halfway through the onslaught, I hit level 22, finally maxed out energy weapons, and took the Radiation Renegade perk. It gave me bonuses for wearing a radiation suit instead of armor, and that's what I did for the majority of the game afterwards, although I didn't always have access to a radiation suit, and they break easily, making them impossible to re-equip if you have to switch armors for whatever reason. I only picked this perk because I already had a radiation suit in my inventory. After another 5 minutes of cat and mouse games, the other mothership finally succumbed to one last laser blast, blowing the hell up. Junior felt joyous at this victory, but was saddened when he realized the rogue mothership was now damaged beyond repair, unable to wreak any further devastation upon the Earth. Junior was really pissed, since now he'd have to find an alternative method of wiping out humanity. He zapped Sally out of existence and teleported back to the capital Wasteland, hopping mad. I did a little more inventory management and shopping at Underworld and got Sharon back into my party. I figured it was time to find where James had scurried off to and finish him. Junior and Sharon scoured the Wasteland for days, searching high and low for the absent father. By chance, they came across a place called Smith Casey's Garage. As it turned out, the garage hid a secret underground vault, Vault 112. It looked just like Vault 101. Seems like James had run away to yet another vault, desperate to find somewhere his reputation wouldn't precede him. The sick bastard made a deal with the owner of Vault 112, letting him continue his experiments in a controlled VR simulation. James Jr. entered the simulation and put a stop to it immediately. Damn it. Shit! You gotta be fucking kidding. Come on. There we go. Junior activated a secret failsafe in the VR program that killed all the experiment victims and released him and his father. As they exited their pods, James tried to explain to his son that he was special, that he'd surpassed his wildest expectations, that they could rule the galaxy as father and son. It was his destiny. But Junior wasn't hearing any of it. He pulled out a disintegrator and chased after his father, determined to not let him escape again. He shot over 100 rounds of hot blue plasma into his father, firing again and again and again, making certain James was dead for good. Even after running out of ammo, he kept pulling the trigger, his entire body shaking with silent fury. It was over. He'd placed so many wound decals onto his father's corpse, it actually noticeably lagged the game. The hatred he'd just released was so massive, it was tearing apart the fabric of reality. And with it gone, James Jr. felt nothing. No, he didn't feel nothing. He felt more fucking hatred than ever before. He left the vault with a renewed sense of purpose. As long as his heart kept beating, he would keep killing, and he would find a way to end the human race once and for all, and the Zetans too. I returned to Underworld to fix up my equipment and prepare for the journey to New Vegas because this video is something like 2/3 complete and we're still in the capital Wasteland despite the title. That is not acceptable. So I wasted no time traveling to the Judiciary Square Metro where Union Station linking Fallout 3 to Fallout New Vegas was. The place was full of super mutants, but killing them helped Junior reach level 23, where I picked intense training and put another point in strength. After killing all the super mutants and going through the regular rigmarole of repriming the reactor and pulling the breaker switches, Junior was able to take a train ride across the United States. For the next 3 years, he scoured the land like a scythe, killed anyone he came across, but was always disappointed by his inability to kill them all. One fateful night, he was ambushed in his sleep by some guy wearing a checkered suit, who shot him in the head to simply retrieve a poker chip he'd picked off a dead guy a few days ago. Junior couldn't believe this was the ignoble way he was going to die, killed by typical human trash. But he didn't die. A Securitron robot dug him out of the grave, and he was healed by a doctor. The killing would continue. Already when I teleported into Doc Mitchell's house, there was a problem. Sharon was still following me, even though I'm pretty sure I chose the setting to dismiss companions when you leave DC in the Benny Humbles You mod. Whatever, I fired him and never saw him again. Junior was tired of Sharon making him look short. He looted Doc Mitchell's house for anything not tied down to try to get rid of the hoarder penalty, and shot the doc to death with a laser pistol. He then did the rest of Goodsprings the same way, killing everybody and sucking up all the loot like a vacuum cleaner. It would be a while before I retrieved my old gear, so I made the best out of using a basic laser pistol and .357 Magnum revolver. When I was done with Goodsprings, I moved on down the road towards the town of Prim. Junior saw Barton Thorne from a distance and didn't help him with his gecko problem. He killed all the powder gangers he saw on the road without a second's thought, and kept on moving. An NCR trooper ran up and told Junior not to go into Prim, and got his head turned into mush for the trouble. The other NCR soldiers around didn't fare much better, and Junior moved into the town, ready to slay everyone as he'd done to many towns in the past. He waltzed into Prim's casino and slaughtered the terrified residents of Prim, all except for Prim Slim, who proved too difficult to kill with bullets. If only I still had a pulse rifle. Oh well, there's no requirement for me to kill robots, and it's not like Prim Slim was fast enough to be a real danger. I could easily outpace his attacks. The escaped convicts occupying Prim died just as easily as the townsfolk, and so did the late sheriff's deputy. Interestingly, the deputy's corpse contained a message about the man who had shot Junior. Now that he'd picked up the trail, he wouldn't let up until this checkered fellow was 6 feet under. Junior took a trip down to Prim Sewer, a World of Pain location, and killed some feral ghouls down there. He thought it might provide a shortcut to Nipton, but it didn't really. It did, however, provide a radiation suit, even better. Back on the surface, Junior hit the amazing milestone of being level 24 and took the Vigilant Recycler perk, which came in handy because energy weapon ammo was tight early on with no vendors to buy it from. Junior took out the Jackal gangsters hiding in an old Nevada highway patrol station before traveling onwards to Mojave Outpost, the gateway to NCR territory. Killing everyone there was first nature to James Jr. by this point. No matter how much blood he spilled, it always felt just as good as the first time. With all his experience and knowledge, he was practically bulletproof. He could take on a whole platoon of NCR soldiers at once, so the small contingent at Mojave Outpost was nothing to him. When they were all dead, he picked the place clean, took all their pork and beans, all their yeast, everything. On his way out, he encountered the eldritch entity Malcolm Holmes. Holmes said something about star bottle caps and then disappeared without a trace. To this day, he's the only human to see Junior's face and live to tell the tale. Well, Junior was weighed down and slowly headed towards Nipton, ready to track down the guy in the suit. On his way there, a group of vigilantes tried to attack him. He'd been in the Mojave all of one day, and already mobs were forming to oppose him. They'd have to try harder next time. Approaching the town, he killed Oliver Swanek before the poor bastard even had time to talk about winning the lottery, and put boxcars down too. Then he laid prone and plinked at the Legion troops at Nipton's town hall. The Legion were so stupid they couldn't tell where the gunfire was coming from, despite him being only 30 meters away, at best. Some idiot named Thomas without the H interrupted Junior's turkey shoot and paid the price for it. I literally managed to kill all but 2 of the legionaries in Nipton just by going prone. It was so pathetic. Wolpes and Culta put up more of a fight, but not much more. Foxboy got put down like the wild animal he was. It goes without saying Junior helped the crucified victims of the Legion off their crosses, the only way he knew how. He then ran into the most obvious ambush zone ever, but defeated it in 10 seconds flat. The people of the Mojave were shaping up to be even easier prey than the people of the capital Wasteland. He ran up right behind a caravan and just blasted them all to hell. It was incredibly effortless. My gloating was put to a stop, though, when a Legion hit squad spawned in right as I was over-encumbered from killing a Viper gunslinger. I had to spam drugs until I wasn't over-encumbered anymore and get to cover. It was a harsh reminder that anything can happen in the Wasteland, so don't get too cocky. Well anyways, after some filler fights I'm cutting for time, Junior made it to Novak and started doing what he always does. Killing. I made it to level 25 and took the 2nd rank of rapid reload, so my reloading could be even more rapid. Everyone in Novak fell by Junior's green hand. It was yet another pocket of human life snuffed out by him. Still, for every town he annihilated, 10 more seemed to pop up to take their place. No individual, no matter how powerful, seemed capable of getting the job Junior wanted done. Junior found out from a corpse in Novak that the guy who shot him went to Boulder City, so that was his next destination. Outside of Novak, another crop of Legion assassins appeared, but this time I was more prepared for them and didn't almost get killed. Continuing my journey, I killed the Lonesome Drifter in his sleep and took his mysterious magnum. I find the musical sting that plays whenever you equip or holster it so annoying, I never use this weapon, ever. With Boulder City not far away, Junior screwed with Private Kowalski before killing him, and then killed everyone in the Bighorn Saloon and slaughtered the NCR troopers holding the cons at bay. The cons actually thought Junior was on their side for a second. Nope, he turned his guns on them too. The hostages got executed, and so did Jessup and McMurphy. Now Junior realized he needed to go to New Vegas, but he made a pit stop to recharge at the 188 trading post, making sure to take advantage of their hospitality. One particular woman there was wielding a power fist, and Junior found her a slight challenge to kill, but everyone else there was a pushover. Junior quickly found some enemies who weren't pushovers when he stumbled into a fiend hideout. Due to the close quarters nature of the fighting and sheer number of enemies, I took a lot of damage and had to retreat outside. I ran out of stim packs, but was able to fight off the bastards, including a very tough bastard who named himself Lucifer. The only good thing about fighting fiends is they tend to drop energy weapons and ammo, and for winning the fight, I made it to level 26 and took the Nerves of Steel perk for faster action point regeneration. An NCR hit squad showed up to warn me, and I embarrassingly missed a full clip at close range and got myself half killed at the beginning of my fight with them. Luckily, they backed off and began shooting me at a distance, and I was able to pick them off with a Watts rifle. Then I took care of the Grub and Gulp rest stop and continued heading towards the fabulous lights of New Vegas. Junior got distracted by a desire to kill everyone at Aerotech Office Park, one of New Vegas's most forgettable locations, but at least it has a lot of war refugees to use for target practice. After that, I made it to the Gunrunners HQ. It was nice to finally have a trader to offload goods to. Unfortunately, the Gunrunners don't stock energy weapons. To make up for that, though, I bought an H&K Cause and waltzed right into Freeside, gunning down everyone in sight. Junior didn't care whether they were wealthy or poor, violent or peaceful. Before him, all humans were equal, equally dead. I disabled the annoying Mick and Ralph's Crier Kid and slaughtered the old Mormon fort. There were a lot of enemies inside, and they almost killed me, but by using the novel strategy of hiding in a tent and funneling them in one by one, I was able to prevail. Next to James Jr., you know what? I'll call him JJ from now on. JJ set his sights on a faction of Elvis impersonators. Their leader, the king himself, tried to run back to his groupies for one last quickie before he died, but luckily my shotgun had a scope. Now that the kings were destroyed, JJ went after the Silver Rush. Fighting the Van Graffs was no picnic, since their building was entirely bereft of cover, but running away and baiting the enemy into attacking worked wonders at whittling down their numbers, allowing me to win once again. JJ disintegrated Gloria Van Graff, destroyed her energy weapon empire, and stole all her shit. There were so many weapons and so much ammo to steal, it broke Junior's heart he didn't have the carry weight to take everything. Cleansing the Atomic Wrangler wasn't even worth mentioning compared to the Silver Rush's difficulty, but the experience did take me to level 27, where I took the My Own Master Now perk, which gives you bonus damage for each faction that hates you. Needless to say, this perk was perfect for James Jr. Freeside was now free of human life, so JJ moved on to the Strip. I actually didn't have enough caps to pass the credit check, but I did have the science skill to bypass it. It was trivially easy to kill the mostly unarmed residents of the Strip, and energy weapons made quick work of the Securitrons. JJ took out the casinos one by one. First, Gomorrah was cleansed of human inhabitants. The people here were shockingly easy to eliminate, apparently lacking basic self-preservation instincts. Back on the Strip, the gamblers were no smarter. JJ wondered if the people here were drunk or drugged because they kind of just stumbled around, allowing themselves to be killed. The guards at the tops were also incredibly stupid, and even Benny, the man who shot James Jr., wasn't facing the right direction at the start of combat. He was easily dispatched, proving 357 Magnum will always beat 9mm. Killing Benny gave me the XP I needed to hit level 28, where I took the Quick Draw perk. This made drawing and holstering energy weapons ludicrously fast. I loved it. JJ grabbed the platinum chip off of Benny's corpse, went up to his suite, and had a chat with his robot Yes Man, who dispensed some interesting information on how to take over Vegas. Then I went to retrieve my Fallout 3 gear from a safe in the presidential suite, which took a very long time because I was heavily over-encumbered and loath to drop anything. After 10 minutes of inventory management struggles, Junior made his merry way to the Ultra Lux Casino and slaughtered everyone in there. I was glad this was the last casino because I was getting tired of shooting lifeless target dummies that wouldn't even run away, let alone fight back. You could at least get out of your chairs, idiots. The rest of the Strip, Vault 21, Michelangelo's Workshop, the Embassy, I'll just skip over. They all died at James Jr.'s green hands. The end. Now it was time to go after the big boy himself, Mr. House. I had my pulse rifle back, so the already non-threatening Securitrons were a complete joke by this point. I made it to level 29 after killing the last of them in House's penthouse, and took the Cola Comrade perk, which gives a critical chance bonus whenever you drink Nuka-Cola. James Jr. unsealed Mr. House's life support chamber, and Mr. House tried to insult him, but superheated plasma speaks louder than words. Mr. House's entire body and the chamber he resided in was reduced to a neat little pile of ash. I didn't even know that was possible. JJ returned to Yes Man, who was waiting outside the tops, and installed him into House's mainframe computer. Yes Man showed off a demonstration of the Platinum chip's power to upgrade Securitrons, and Junior was highly intrigued. Unupgraded, they made pathetic opponents, but with the Mark II operating system, perhaps they could be loyal soldiers for his murderous cause. Once the demonstration was complete, Yes Man gave Junior a printout because the voice actor wasn't given lines for the unique circumstance of killing Mr. House and upgrading the Securitrons before going to the fort. But rather than continue the main story, I wanted to do some DLC. Unfortunately, at this point, I was running out of time to get this video out, and despite having an extra week, I only had the opportunity to do one New Vegas DLC. I kind of wanted to do Old World Blues, but I didn't want to deal with the penis toe jokes, especially since the characters in New Vegas don't even have toes. Seriously, look at their feet for once. It's a goddamn lie. So, for that completely arbitrary and stupid reason, I decided to go through Dead Money instead. James Jr. received a radio broadcast promising him something that would help him gain power, and despite being smarter than the average cookie, he still fell for it. Once he tracked the broadcast to its source, he was hit by a strong dose of knockout gas that somehow went through his radiation suit. He was dragged to the Sierra Madre casino and forced to wear a bomb collar. A short conversation with his captor, Father Elijah, made JJ realize he was in serious trouble and he'd better play ball if he was going to survive. He needed to find 3 other people in the same situation as him. First up was a super mutant with split personalities named Dog or God at the nearby police station. I started running around, grabbing every piece of loot I could find to try and alleviate the hoarder penalty, as well as give myself more options at the 4 crafting benches this DLC has. It wasn't long before I arrived at the police station and was reminded of the radios and speakers that make this DLC more of a pain in the ass than it needs to be. Thankfully, they aren't as bad if you have a sprint mod, and I also had perks to increase my movement speed, so getting blown up wasn't much of a possibility. I just found it difficult sometimes to locate the speakers and radios I needed to turn off, even though I've beaten this DLC at least 5 or 6 times by now. Well, anyways, Junior grabbed Dog's command tape, had a short conversation with God, and then brought Dog back out since he was a little more subservient. Second up was Dean Domino, who forced Junior to sit in a booby-trapped chair, which wasn't very nice of him. But he turned out to be more agreeable than God and went back to the fountain without trouble. Third was Christine at the hospital, which was guarded by invincible security holograms, another reason this DLC can be tough. But JJ was capable of sneaking past them and found Christine, a human, and the worst type of human too, one he couldn't kill since his bomb collar was linked to hers. Even knowing that, it took all the restraint he could muster to avoid killing her immediately. Luckily, the level up menu distracted him. I had made it to level 30. I took the Stonewall perk because you can never have enough damage threshold, and followed Christine back to the fountain. Elijah gave Junior new instructions. He had to get these 3 idiots into position to trigger a gala event that would open the casino. He started with Dog and had to get him to an electrical station. I had wasted most of my hollow rifle ammo by now, but throwing spears somehow worked wonders. Of course, they worked both ways. JJ had to bring God back out to get the super mutant to perform the delicate operation of flipping some switches, and afterwards return to the fountain. Getting Dean Domino into position proved to be much more trouble. JJ nearly died to all the ghost people along the way. After putting him in his place, Domino refused to stay unless JJ turned on some security holograms to protect him. Before doing that though, I had to assign my points and perk for level 31, and I picked Junk Rounds, which is terrible in vanilla, but Sweet Perk Overhaul rebalances it, so it might have been good if I had actually remembered to use it. Finding the 3 hologram terminals wasn't all that hard, with the quest marker leading me right there, and before long I was free of Dean and heading back to the fountain. Last was Christine again, and JJ had to control himself every second to avoid throwing a spear right into the back of her scarred head. Thankfully, he only had to spend a few minutes guiding her to a switching station before getting some time alone outside, searching for fuses. This allowed him to cool off. He then led her deeper into the switching station, spearing speakers and hacking terminals to turn them off. In the end, it was her job to go down an elevator, but due to her recent trauma in the auto dock, she was unwilling to do it. JJ, of course, didn't give a damn about her objections and tricked her into the elevator anyways, chuckling as it sent her all the way to the bottom. He then headed towards his pre-planned position to trigger the gala event. Thankfully, I'd found an automatic rifle and a half-decent chunk of ammo back in the police station. It served as my bread and butter fighting ghost people on my way to the event control panel. In no time at all, the casino was opened, with a very disappointing fireworks display. The fireworks attracted an angry crowd of ghost people who really burnt through my ammo. Eventually, I ran out of even spears to throw and had to limp my way to the casino, injured. Upon reaching the casino, JJ was hit by knockout gas again, allowing Obsidian to reuse the exact same animation from Fallout 3 twice, because first-person animations aren't cheap to make, you know. I hit level 32 and took the Nuka Chemist perk, which I only ever used at the very end of the run. I think the perk was bugged because it never showed the ingredients for Nuka-Cola recipes. I could craft the colas if I had the ingredients, but I didn't know what ingredients to look for. When combined with other Nuka-Cola themed perks, it could be a decent option, but I think I should have chosen something else. Anyway, I snuck through the casino, trying my hardest to avoid the security holograms, and followed Elijah's orders to turn the power on. One of those damn holograms killed me, and I lost some progress, but eventually I was able to flip the power switch. Now it was JJ's goal to hunt down his former collaborators, starting with the crazed super mutant. My first attempt to stop Dog didn't go well. Yeah. The second time around, I put my sneak skills to good use and actually turned off the gas valves. Dog and God finally started agreeing with each other and became of one mind right before JJ killed the both of them. Next it was time to deal with Dean Domino, and Junior decided not to kill him. Getting past the speakers in the Tampico Theater took me longer than I'd like to admit, but eventually I got through the sequence and replaced the dangerous security holograms with friendly audience ones. For level 33, I took the second rank of Nerves of Steel since you can never have enough action point regen. Sadly, the casino was attacked by ghost people right then and there, but I had found a single barrel shotgun and some 20 gauge ammo that made quick work of them. JJ lastly had to deal with Christine, and she was really angry at him for leaving her in that cold, dark elevator.
I've been looking forward to taking care of you since the gala event.
He didn't mind her ire, but the fact that she sicked security holograms on him was a bit of a pain. In the Luxury Suites storage room, I thought I could build a rocket launcher, but unfortunately I was one leaf blower short. I'm not certain there are any to find in Dead Money. Very unfortunate. Eventually, JJ made it to Christine, and she went off on him about being locked in that elevator and how traumatized she was. Junior put an end to all of her traumas and sprinted out before his bomb collar could explode. All that was left to do now was get into the Sierra Madre vault. First, I dealt with another infestation of ghost people that had cropped up again in the casino's lobby. Then I combined the voice recordings or whatever to open the vault and ran through the final gauntlet. It was everything that sucked about this DLC. Security holograms, speakers, the cloud, all in one. Luckily, I was able to get through it in only a few minutes. All that remained was the vault itself and its secrets. Sadly for James Jr., the only treasures the vault held were some useless and heavy gold bars. Junior knew that humans had a fondness for gold, and he could trade the bars to the Gunrunner's robot, so he picked up 7 of them before taunting Elijah into coming down to fight him. He reprogrammed the turrets to fight Elijah, and Dean managed to shut off the speakers to make getting out of there easier. Elijah died very rapidly, and with a sprint mod, it wasn't hard to make it out of the vault with more than enough time to spare. By finishing Dead Money, I'd made it to level 34, where I finally maxed out the science skill and took the Survivor's Guilt perk from Suite 6 perks, which you can only take after finishing Dead Money. It reduced my action point usage, so it wasn't a bad perk. Upon returning to the Mojave, I was over-encumbered as all hell, so I spent some time fast-traveling between the bunker and the Gunrunner stand, and I bought some weapons just for fun. I definitely didn't need them, but it was cool to have a Desert Eagle and 14mm pistol. I bought some upgrades for the Lucky 38 penthouse suite, and made myself some special Nuka-Colas there too. This was mostly pointless since I never went back to the penthouse, and I only drank a few Nuka-Cola victories during the Hoover Dam Battle to get a few extra critical hits. I could have easily beaten the game without them. Junior remembered that printout Yes Man gave him a while back, and realized he needed to get to Fortification Hill. Unfortunately, the place was occupied by Caesar's Legion, and the only way to get there was via a barge at Cottonwood Cove, also occupied by the Legion. Fortunately, legionaries were never trained on dealing with snipers, so I was able to simply disintegrate them from a hill with a Watt's laser rifle at night while they ran around like chickens with their heads cut off. Most of the Legion troops were dead by the time Junior walked into their camp, and finishing them off was a trivial matter. He freed the Legion's captives from their torment as well, and caught the camp's centurion sleeping on the job. The fort was a bit more difficult, but a Desert Eagle and Sleepy Time made mincemeat of the troops outside, and for Junior's smaller opponents, the console worked wonders. I was becoming really fond of New Vegas' vanilla RPG-style combat. Once you get over the fact that everyone can survive 5 shots to the head, it's fine. I actually like the higher time to kill. It makes combat more strategic instead of a twitch shooter. I almost died upon entering the fort proper because a Praetorian guard with a ballistic fist was waiting right beside the entrance, but after I dealt with him, things became easy again. Caesar's tent was another tricky area, though. It's an enclosed space full of deadly melee enemies with little room to maneuver. Kiting around everyone with an alien disintegrator did the job, though, and Caesar was turned into a sad little pile of ash. I wish I had a dustpan for him. By killing Caesar, I earned enough XP to hit level 35, and I took the Infighter perk to do more damage and have more DT when close to enemies. The weather monitoring station was another tough place, surprisingly, because there were 3 Praetorian guards with ballistic fists waiting in a small room. I got very close to dying, but barely scraped past alive. If I hadn't just taken the Infighter perk, it might have been a different story. As for Mr. House's vault, since I had 100 science, I was able to disable all the robots, but even if I didn't, I had enough pulse weapons to make them a non-threat anyways. As James Jr. passed the rows of deactivated Securitrons, he was astounded by their sheer numbers. He had a low opinion of robots from his experience fighting them, but he began to think, if every single one of these Securitrons could be upgraded with the Mark II OS, and the factories that make them could be reopened, this Securitron army might just be exactly what he needed to finally wipe out humanity. This was the part of the Yes Man run where you meet and greet all the tribes, and I was seriously running out of time to get this video out the door, so I got JJ to blitzkrieg his way through them. But I wasn't so strapped for time that I couldn't spend a little killing the powder gangers of NCRCF. I had plenty of alien power modules to spare after all. Eventually I grew tired of killing them and moved on to Hidden Valley. No matter how many times I play New Vegas, I can never correctly guess which bunker the Brotherhood of Steel are hiding in first try. I guess their cover is good enough to fool me for a little while. Too bad for them, their power armor wasn't good enough to block my disintegrator shots. Before long, I remembered that pulse damage is effective not just against robots, but also power armor. And this knowledge turned the Brotherhood from a minor threat into a laughingstock. Like always, the real danger was getting over-encumbered from all the weapons and ammo and food I wanted to pick up, even though I didn't need any of it. I didn't bother collecting the self-destruct codes because I had enough science to unlock the self-destruct terminal. And that was goodbye and good riddance to the Brotherhood. My next target was the Great Khans. On my way there, I hit level 36 and picked the greatest perk yet, Pack Rat. It instantly shaved my carry weight nearly in half, since most inventory items weigh less than 2 pounds. Anyhow, I didn't waste too much time dealing with the Khans. I just killed everybody in their longhouse and fast-traveled away. It wasn't a full extermination, but I didn't have time for that. Last on the list of targets was the Boomers. Getting past their artillery bombardment is a lot easier than intended when you've got a sprint mod and perks to make yourself faster still. As soon as the gate guards took me to Mother Pearl, I opened fire on her and sent her to permanent sleepy time. Then I ran around with an alien blaster and turned everyone else into beautiful little piles of ash. With every single major faction in the Mojave wiped out, JJ returned to Yes Man and rattled off a list of all the groups he'd killed, to Yes Man's satisfaction. The "you'll know it when it happens" quest was automatically skipped because I was hostile to the NCR, so all I had to do was power on the El Dorado substation, a simple task that only involved killing a few NCR troopers. Junior went back to Yes Man one last time and was sent off to Hoover Dam, where the NCR and Legion were facing off against each other. Neither faction realized it would be an alien hybrid controlling a robot army that would soon dominate the Vegas area, not them. At the start of the battle, I gained my final level, 37, and picked the Headless Courier perk because I didn't feel like wearing a helmet anymore. I don't know, at this point I was so overpowered, victory was a foregone conclusion. I didn't need to worry about what perk to take. I played around using various weapons during this final battle because, why not, anything works. The battle rifle was a pretty decent choice, and I must have been hitting a lot of criticals because NCR and Legion troops alike were dropping fast. For this playthrough, I turned critical hit and limb damage messages off because I find them annoying, so I never knew 100% when I was landing criticals. JJ installed an override chip in the Hoover Dam's control room to divert all power to the Securitron army under the fort, and then headed off to face Lagout head-on. The combat power of Mark II Securitrons during the battle highly impressed him. For the first time in his life, he felt like he had allies worth a damn. He was certain with them at his side, his cleansing mission would be a success. Conquering this chunk of concrete was only the beginning. James Jr. looked up at the stars and realized that was where his destiny lied. First, he would take Hoover Dam, then Nevada, then North America, then all of planet Earth, and then the galaxy. All these squabbling alien life forms would be exterminated and replaced with reliable robots. A robot doesn't make mistakes, it doesn't talk back, it doesn't have its own ideas, it just does what it's programmed to do by its owner, and as long as James Jr. was in control, he was happy. Alright, let's get this over with. Leg Atlanteus was a letdown. It took all of 13 disintegrator blasts to kill him, and I missed half my shots. I can safely say I had more difficulty getting the last few Legion troops to spawn in than I did killing the Legate. General Oliver and his cadre of Rangers showed up to congratulate Junior on defeating the Legion, but he wasn't interested in gratitude, only cleansing. With that final kill, and after a short conversation with Yes Man, the end slides started rolling, making the answer to the question nobody ever asked besides myself a resounding yes. Of course you can beat Fallout New Vegas as an alien hybrid, and Fallout 3 too. In fact, the majority of my time was spent doing Fallout 3 content. It was a fun experience. It makes me want to go back and do a real playthrough, actually completing all the quests and stuff, but that would take 100 hours instead of the 60 this run did. Tale of Two Wastelands has so much content, I don't even need many mods to make it enjoyable. In fact, having too many mods is what caused all my problems in the beginning. Anyhow, the game might be over, but James Jr.'s story has only just begun. In 2026, assuming my channel still exists, I'm going to bring him back in Starfield, and he's going to conquer the whole galaxy, I promise. Mark it on your calendars, remind me in 2 years in case I forget, and stay tuned, everybody. Until next time, toodles!